again for you.
Good morning. Yes, it's before noon, so it's still morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Saturday. Thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Gayle Guest-Brown, Equity Leadership Strategist and CEO of Guest-Brown Impact, where I work with women of color to command their worth at work and overcome challenges to pay equity, to purpose, to leadership development, so that we might get their families on firmer financial footing. So thank you for joining me. If you're in the audience today, we're going to have a conversation. So we want to hear from you. Go ahead and ask any questions you may have. We're also going to do a raffle. So put your name in the chat to be qualified for the raffle. At Guest-Brown Impact, my book, I'm also an author. Thank you, team. So I'm an author of Girl, Get It Right, an impact guide to living and creating the life and work you dream of. Now, this book is perfect for someone going through transition, someone trying to make the best out of this one little life we've been given. You know, I created this book some time ago, and just the other day, a friend who's known me a long time just got it and read it and said, Gayle, I read your book and it changed my mindset. Now that's a big deal. That's exactly who I created the book for. You know, if you are in a spot where you don't know what to do next, you don't know how to transform your life, this book is a great guide for that. So pick it up. You can pick it up at Amazon.com. Get your copy today. At Guest-Brown Impact, though, my business, we are all about helping women stand in their power, speak their truth, and command their worlds, right? And so we've created this forum, Impactful Conversation, where we can showcase Black excellence, because sometimes we just need a reminder that we are showcasing, that we are worthy, and that we have greatness. We come from greatness, and we are great. And I've got a great guest today for you, Dr. Tana M. Sessions. But before we get to her, let me get her name right first, Dr. Tana M. Sessions. And before we get to her, we're going to have a little topic. Her theme today is Black Women's Equal Pay Day. And we're going to be talking about race and pay equity. You know, I've always said this, that these racial and gender inequities are just leadership challenges. They are the leadership challenges for our generation. We have more knowledge, we have more tech, we have more than any other generation before us. There is no reason we cannot solve these inequities in our generation. Pay equity has been with us, this pay gap, not pay equity, the pay gap has been with us. The gendered pay gap has been with us a long time. You can see this slide goes back to this like 79, but it has not budged in the last 20 years, maybe 2%, right? And when we talk about gender pay gap, we're talking about all women. But today we're going to disaggregate this data, and we're going to talk about what it looks like across different races. This is last year's slide, and this amounts to how long we have to work into the year to make what our white male counterparts are making as of December the year prior. So we have to work as Black women. This was last year. We had to work until August. Well, the news is this year this has slipped. It has slipped back to September 21st for Black women, right? It's the first time it's done that. Some quick facts about Black Women's Equal Pay Day. I wanted to bring to your attention that we have been celebrating or acknowledging, not celebrating, acknowledging this day since 1996. The National Committee on Pay Equity declared the observance of equal pay days. And it's just to spotlight this inequity, to bring attention to it so that we might not forget about it. Because even today, we've been spotlighting it every year. So many people are not aware of how big this pay gap is. This pay gap, this is what it looks like, what it equates to. This slide says 53 cents for Black women. It's from anywhere from 53 to 58 cents for Black women over the, this is what we make on the dollar compared to our white male counterparts. You can see for Latino women, it's 49 cents, and for Native American women, it's 50 cents. So these inequities, when we disaggregate it, we look at that big pay gap, we disaggregate that data to see what it really means in the lives of people of color. It's significant. Now, that pay gap equates to just under $1 million over the course of your career. Over the course of a 40-year career for Black women, you can see it's 964. I've seen 984. And then Native American women, not quite 1 million, and Latinas over 1 million over the course of a 40-year career, right? This pay gap is significant, and it's something we need to address. Now, there's some systemic issues at play. I'm not going to sit here and tell you there aren't. There's a lot of systemic issues at play. But there's also research out there that says that women don't negotiate as much as men do. That while men are willing to ask for a raise up to 12%, women are only willing to ask for an up to 9% raise. Now, we've got to stop that, right? And we got to do our part. So there are systemic issues at play, but let's come together and talk about what we can do to equify this pay gap. So in Brand Your Brilliance and Negotiate, I had a live event a couple of weeks ago, but we are going to do a free virtual 2.5-hour, 2-day event on the 19th and the 20th, right? So because it's virtual, I can offer this for free. And in honor of, and maybe just because of Black Women's Unequal Pay Day, I am offering this to you for free. So let's come together. Let's talk about how to level up our brand and just maybe be more conscious about how we're showing up at work, making sure that we're showing up consistently, how to enunciate and articulate our value at work, and how to get ready for those negotiations, what the pregame looks like, and how to nail those negotiations, okay? So this is happening next week. It's free. And so I hope you will join me. I hope you will tell all your friends and tell your cousins across the country, anyone you know, any person of color you know who's dealing with inequity and not getting the pay they deserve at work. All right, let's do it. Let's work. Let's make this happen. All right, so I hope you join me, but let's get to my very special guest. I'm so honored to have Dr. Tana M. Session in the room with us today. She's awesome. She'll be helping me to talk about Black Women's Equal Pay Day from a DEI perspective. Dr. Tana is here in the house, so let's bring her in.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much. I want to tell you a little bit about this special lady that you see in front of her, this beautiful queen that's sitting right in front of you. Dr. Tana M. Session is the CEO and founder of TanaMSession.com. She has over 30 years of HR experience. She specializes in cultural engineering. Dr. Tana, you're going to have to tell me what that is, and facilitating experiences and leadership and organizational development. She has over 10 years in change leadership, change initiatives, and she's up-leveled entire departments. She's worked with such notable firms as McDonald's, Geffen, AM Records, Spotify, the LA Chamber of Commerce, and NASA, right? Her experience has allowed her to enable her to embed her passion of DEI into everything she does. She's a highly recognized person. There's so many awards and recognitions on this bio. I can't begin to list them all. But notably, the one that caught my eye is top diversity and equity business leader and DEI champion for the National Diversity Council. She's the top 10 California HR outsourcing company and Core Magazine. USA Today recognized her as the Core 100 most influential Blacks today. That's who we got in our house today. Thank you, Dr. Tana. A little bit about her education, though. I don't want to skip over this. Now, she graduated with her undergrad degree in business administration and her MBA in organizational psychology and development. She received her honorary doctorate from University of Phoenix. And she joined the UCLA Extension and California State Long Beach as an adjunct professor, right? She also is headed off to law school this year. She's just 3 weeks in. And so we'll talk all about that. This is awesome. Dr. Tana is the author of multiple books, including her #1 bestseller, Get Your Career and Life in Order. And she's going to be with us today. She's going to be giving away her new book, Working While Black. Stop being the best kept secret. Come on now. All right. Thank you. When did this book get released, Dr. Tana?
It got released, when was it? Fall of last year. So yeah, I'm coming up on a year anniversary.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Tana. I appreciate that. I appreciate you. So, you are a very impressive person. But I'd like to give people an idea of who you are as a person. And so I'm hoping you'll tell us a little bit about who you are, whether you have kids, whether you're married. Come on, give us the scoop on who Dr. Tana is.
Sure. Well, I tell people I feel like my life is an open book. I talk about it so much and it's all over the internet. But yes, I'm married. I have a natural son who will be turning 27 in October. And then I have a bonus son who turned 31 earlier this year. My husband and I have been empty nesters since the youngest went off to college, and we are enjoying living our best life.
All right.
In addition to that, I'm also a product of foster care. So the first 4 years of my life, from the day I was born until I was almost 4, I was with a foster family in New York, and then ultimately was reunited with my maternal grandparents who got guardianship of me, and we moved from New York to South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a fair amount of my time up until my mid-teens in South Carolina, but I was back and forth to New York throughout probably since about 11. Keeping in touch with my paternal side of the family, and then ultimately moved in with my father and his family to finish up my last year of high school. And then I stayed in New York, spent some time in Atlanta. So sometimes people get my cell phone number and it starts with a 404 and they're like, are you in Atlanta? I've had that number since 1994.
All right now.
Never going to give it up.
All right.
That's what my son was born in Atlanta, and then eventually moved back to New York, and now we're all in LA.
You are truly a woman of the world, right? You've been all over. And I understand you've spoken internationally as well.
Yeah, I've spoken internationally. I'm a huge citizen of the world. I love to travel and see other cultures, learn other cultures, learn about other cultures. I think it helps me broaden my own personal perspective and minimize any bias I may have. And it also helps with the work that I do. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your background. I do remember you talking about being a foster kid now. Yeah, 4 years.
Mm-hmm. I have a nonprofit called Foster Care to Fabulous Foundation. And what we do, we being my husband, my son, and myself, what we do is we give grants, financial grants to foster parents who take in children aged 0 to 4 years. So far this year, since we started the foundation in late 2020, we've helped almost 50 kids so far.
Oh my goodness, that is amazing. You are truly a special person, always thinking about others, always giving back.
Thank you.
How did you end up in your field of HR?
I kind of stumbled into it. When I was about 21 years old, I was an administrative assistant, and at the time they called it a secretary. I was working for Ernst & Young in New York. And they had this role called a floater. And so as a floater secretary, you would fill in for anyone who was out sick or on maternity leave or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And when you didn't have a particular assignment, they would, put you in a particular department. You would just, be a secretary for the day in that department. And so they put me in HR. At the time it was called personnel. And I started, just staying there because they really liked the work that I was doing. So they wasn't putting me out on assignment. It was like their own internal temp agency almost. And they were like, everyone likes you here. Do you want to just stay here? And I was like, sure. And then I caught the eye of the director. She was a new director, newly promoted. And she had also grown her career at E&Y, starting out as an assistant. And we just bonded. And ultimately, she's the one who, over time, grew into being a huge mentor for me through most of my career. But she's the one who really got me interested in HR.
Awesome. Awesome. So it's nice to have those mentors and sponsors. If she's high enough, I'd call her a sponsor. You say I caught her eye. Like, that's just easy to do. What do you think was, why did you catch her eye? What do you think was special about you?
She always told me that I didn't dress for the position I was in. I dressed for the position I wanted. And it was true. I was very intentional about how I showed up in the office. So I was the only assistant that wore suits or blazers,
Come on now.
Yeah. I had my little faux pearl necklaces. And, I kind of looked at how other women that were in director roles were dressing. And I kind of repeated what I saw within my own budget. And that was the first thing she noticed about me. And then she also, and I didn't know at the time, but she told me later, she paid attention to how I engaged with people because I was at the front desk. And so employees and partners, everyone would come through. And she's like, you treated everyone the same, regardless if they were in facilities or they were a partner coming on the floor. And so that's really what initially caught her eye. Was she was like, there's something about her. And I see a little bit of me in her, and I want to help her get to the next level.
Awesome. It's so important to have mentors. And thank you for making that point about how you show up at work, right?
Yeah.
And always dressing, at least 2 levels above, right? Right. And that has also worked for me, right? I'm so conscious about what I have on that my niece told me one time when I showed up at her house in shorts. She said, I've never seen you dress down. I said, I do. You can trust me. But when I'm out, I want to have a certain image, right? It's about managing that brand.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking about that in Brand Your Brilliance as well. Awesome. And thank you for dropping that tip on how to be noticed and how to treat people, and especially in HR. I know they picked up on that.
Yes.
So awesome. Tell me about this love of education, because I see you are just continuing. When I talked to you, you told me you're about to go to law school, and that's really exciting. I'm a little envious. Something I've always wanted to do.
Don't be.
Yes. Tell me what's the motivation behind that?
Well, a couple of things. I think in terms of, when I think about my early education, I didn't go straight to college. I tried, didn't have the finances to stay in school. So I didn't graduate with my undergrad until I was 38 years old. I didn't graduate with my MBA until I was 40. I got my honorary doctorate in 2019, I think it was. And going to law school was something I wanted to do ever since I was in my MBA program. I took a business law class, which really focused on torts at the time. And I came home and I told my husband, I was like, I think I want to be a lawyer. I was like, I really love this class. But, looking into law school, I was like, okay, you got to pass the LSAT, and it's expensive, and I don't want to take on any more student debt. And oh, by the way, I need to get my son through high school and then get him through college. Right. And so I was able to do that. I shifted my focus and, got him through college. He graduated in 2018. And I just reached a point on my birthday. I try to do something to challenge myself every year. Usually it can involve something, I call it extreme sports, where I'll do like jumping out of a plane or jumping off a cliff or stuff like that.
Oh my goodness.
And so this year I was supposed to learn how to fly a plane. And instead I decided to apply for law school. And I said, I think this is the next challenge for me. And it's something that I think will sustain me for a few years, where I won't have to go and look for something adventurous to do. And, again, 3 weeks in, and, I go to Ventura's College of Law here in LA, and in Ventura County, up in a little further north, almost in Santa Barbara. And so far I love it. I was telling my husband, it's challenging, it's stretching me, which is what I like to do. And I'm learning things now. I'm already starting to think about things differently and write differently already. And that's, just.
Wow. That's just 3 weeks in. Yeah. I took that in my MBA class. I took that business law class on torts, started writing briefs, and I thought, ooh, I think I can do this, right? I can write a couple little briefs, and Whoa, man,
That class will fool you.
I know, right? That class will fool you. I know it's much more deep
It
than
is.
that. I also worked besides colleagues who were going to law school while working full time. So I know how much work that is. So I applaud you and I admire you for your grit and for how you show up.
I
I
appreciate it.
also admire your program that you run every Sunday. Tell us a little bit about that. How'd
Yeah.
you get into that?
So it's a show I do on LinkedIn called HR in the News, and it runs about 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes. And what I do is I share the top 10 corporate stories that come across all these different news subscriptions that I apply to. And I give a synopsis and a rundown of it based through the lens of HR and diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So it could be a story about, Tesla being sued by a bunch of employees for discrimination in their Fremont, California warehouse. And so I kind of break down what the case is about, how it applies to HR. I talk to my HR folks and like, hey, these are things you want to look out for in your place of work. And here's how you help them mitigate some of these things before they escalate into a class action lawsuit. And then if it's a diversity issue, I talk about it through the lens of diversity, like what the organization did right or what they did wrong or what they should do differently. And I'm coming up this Sunday will be my 125th episode. I've been doing this since 2019, and I'm actually going on a hiatus. I call it my season finale. It's the end of the show. So I'm going to go out with a bang. And because I need to take that time back and put it into law school.
Oh, awesome. I have benefited from your show. I really enjoy you. I enjoy how you present it. And it's really good information. I'm definitely going to be there for your season finale. And so I hope you guys will go out. The link is in the chat. If you follow Dr. Tana, then you will be notified automatically when she goes live. And so even if you don't catch the live event, next time you're on LinkedIn, it'll pop up. It'll let you know, and you can look at it when you are at your convenience. But I think you're going to do something a little special, a little different this time. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so LinkedIn has a feature called audio only, and they rolled it out to a few what they call creators. So I have access to do what they call an audio only, which is, if anyone's familiar with Clubhouse, that came out back in 2020, 2021, very similar to Clubhouse, where you can bring different people up on the stage to talk. And I've had people ask me, like, they want to ask questions, or they want to engage with me. And because I was doing it much like this platform, they were only able to communicate through chat. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share, there's 5 brand new spanking stories I want to make sure I cover, but then I'm going to turn the mic over and allow people to come and talk to me and engage and ask me questions, since it is the last show.
Awesome. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it should be.
I definitely hope to join you live. What time?
1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern.
All right, Marina, put that on my calendar, please. All right, thank you. That's awesome. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Black Women's Equal Pay Day and DEI. Now, I know you are a top HR professional, and I know you know a lot about DEI. What do you think about the DEI efforts there? Is that going to help us equify this pay gap, very stubborn pay gap that we're experiencing?
Well, Gayle, I think it's a start. I think it took us a long time to get here. It's going to take us a long time to reverse it. I'm optimistic about the amount of education that's out there now that wasn't, let's say, when I was early or midpoint in my career. I'm also excited about the fact that a lot of states and companies are now required to put salary ranges on their job postings. So that way, you know exactly what those ranges are. Now, where you fall within that range is up for debate and negotiation, but at least you have a ballpark so you don't undersell yourself. Right. When I was in HR and I would make offers, people left money on the table all the time. And unfortunately, I wasn't in a position to say, you could get more, just ask, right?
right.
My HR man, my hiring manager would be like, yay, you saved us money, right? And we got great talent.
Yeah.
And now, especially over this last, couple of years with what they call the Great Resignation, Great Reshuffle, whatever they want to call it, employees are more empowered now because they hold the power. There's less of them than there are jobs. And so they're
Right.
able to negotiate higher salaries. And a lot of my clients are saying, my goodness, I had to pay this person so much money, and they came in and they negotiated, or, they knew what they were worth. They did the research. And so again, the research and the information is there. I encourage people to access it, use it to their advantage, and just ask, right? And if it's not
Mhm.
salary that you can negotiate more, maybe you can negotiate more PTO. Maybe you can negotiate being vested sooner, or being able to get your 401k vested sooner. Like different ways to look at your total package to see where else can you negotiate in your favor.
Absolutely. Is it true? Are you seeing that theme that the research suggests that women aren't negotiating as much as men are?
Yeah, historically we haven't. And
Yeah.
and there's a couple of reasons why. Unfortunately, part of our, and I'm going to say our very generically and generalize it by women, regardless of race, don't want to seem like we're pushy. We don't want to seem like, we have what I call sharp elbows, like we're trying to act like a man, that type of thing. So we want to come in a little softer. We want to come in a more approachable. We want to come in in a way that's more accommodating. And as a result, we may not negotiate on our own behalf. And that's to our deficit. So it starts very early in our career. If we don't do that, from the time we graduate college and start growing our careers, it starts there. If we do negotiate there and we don't negotiate at that next promotion, it could escalate. And then
Right.
ultimately, to your point in that slide, over
Yeah.
a period of time, we're missing out on hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars.
Thank you for making that point. Absolutely. We do know that there is a gender likability penalty too when we show up too aggressively, right?
Yep.
And so it's hard to kind of pick that lane.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the point is we can't pick this lane. We have to negotiate, right? So how you show up work, you can be softer and all that, but you still have to negotiate when you have an opportunity. Like you said, first thing in the door, absolutely. But if you miss that, you're already behind, right? Uh-huh. But definitely every opportunity you get a chance, and sometimes you have to be proactive about asking for that raise. When you
Yeah.
know your value and you know your worth, you feel more comfortable and more confident in that.
Yeah, and the other aspect of that is we also get the penalty, the caregiving penalty, I'll call it, where we have to take the off ramp when we get pregnant. We're out of work anywhere from 6 weeks or more, depending on how much time you have at work, whether it's paid or unpaid. If it's unpaid, the gap gets even bigger. And then we may be penalized for that. And I know for a fact they are, because I've done this around performance review. They actually will prorate how long you've worked that year. So if you went out on maternity leave, that time gets taken away from you when they're considering your promotion, when they're considering your merit increases. And then again, you're back in the office trying to make that back up again, right? So it's all of these factors that come into play when it comes to the gender pay gap.
Wow, that's awful. I hadn't heard that and wasn't aware of that.
We
But
do it.
yeah, these corporations were not set up for women. They were set up for men, right? They were set up for men, white men.
By men, by
Right.
white men.
Yeah. So, there's some as more of us come into positions to be able to do something about it. This is the change that we can help to affect, right? As we move up into those positions, of course, we're moving up in smaller quantities.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to the next 2 generations, because they're not taking that mess, and I'm glad.
They are not taking that mess, and that's the truth. I was, in a workshop talking about how to approach negotiations differently, given that we are women.
Yeah.
And I had a young person stand up and say, "I'm not doing that. The men don't have to do it. I'm not doing it." And I'm like, I know it's not fair, but they're just not gonna stand for it, right? And they're more willing to speak up and say, "I'm not doing it," right? I know they're just gonna have to recognize my skills and my talent, and I'm just gonna insist on it. Of course, we'll see if that happens. She was a white woman, so it could happen for her. I don't know. We'll see. Knock that door down for us, please.
Right. That's
Yeah, please just knock that door. All right. Thank you so much. Let's talk a little bit about your books. So you've got a best-selling book. What was the motivation behind that one?
Yeah, it's called Get Your Career Life in Order. And it started because when I left corporate and became a consultant, I had a lot of friends and family and friends of friends and friends of family that now that I was on the street, they felt they could come and ask me for, advice on
Ah,
interview skills or
mhm,
negotiating or their
mhm,
resume, those
mhm.
types of things. And so I was giving out all this free information repeatedly. And I said, I need to just turn this into a book. So that way, all of that, I do a brain dump of everything I've learned, for 30 plus years in HR, things I've seen go right, things I've seen go wrong, and just put it into this step-by-step guide, if you will, along with samples and blank pages for people to kind of fill things out on their own. And it ended up going to Amazon #1, I think in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, 17 or 18. Um,
Wow.
because again, every time I went on a speaking engagement, every time I did coaching, every time I posted a lot on social media and just really started getting the attention of people. So based on the category I was in, it became a #1 bestseller, which was great. And it's still, to this day, I still get payments from Amazon on that book, and Barnes and Noble too. And then that book, I used it to do speaking engagements based off of it. So people started asking me like, can you come and do a workshop based on that book? And so I've started doing that as well.
Awesome. I have a question in the chat. Hello, Dr. Stacy. Good to see you. She wants to know, what is your book writing process?
Oh, well, I start with an outline first. So I start thinking about, what do I want to include in the book? And it's a messy process. So I don't try to think of it through the lens of this needs to be perfect, because it's going to evolve and change. But I start off with an outline of what are the things I want to include in this book. And oftentimes the outline is what's going to help me come up with my title. Because sometimes, a couple of times, I didn't know what the title was going to be until I started writing the book. And then once I've written out my outline, then I just start going through that outline and start putting bullet points of what are the key facts or issues or points that I want to make in every single one of the pieces of the table of contents. And then I just go back and start writing it. And then I rewrite it. And then I get someone to look at it. And then I write it some more. And I just keep doing that until I feel like it's in a space where I have nothing left to give.
Awesome. Awesome. And nothing left to give. Look at you. I love that. Dr. Stacy, I am so ready to hear about your book, and I hope you're making progress.
Yay.
I
Me
hope
too.
you're making progress. The world is waiting for you to get that book out. And I know a good coach if you need a book coach. So just hit me up. Let's get that book out to the world.
Get it out. That's
Yeah,
right.
get it out. But that's a great process. The process I'd use was an outline, and then bullet points,
Mhm.
and then a title for each chapter, and then filling in the book. So
Very
you
similar.
just begin to piece it together, right?
Yep. And sometimes you
Uh,
move it around a little bit. So yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And then you look for a theme.
Yep.
I wanted to include a quote. My book has like 40 quotes in it because I wanted a quote per chapter, all of that, right?
Yep.
So please leave your name in the chat so that you can win Dr. Tana's book. All right, so let's see. Let's talk about your other book, your new book. All right,
Yep.
can we put that up? Ah, there it is. Working While Black, a Woman's Guide to Stop Being the Best Kept Secret.
Yep.
What can people expect when they read this one?
So this book I wrote through the encouragement of Dr. Lois Frankel. She wrote Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office, a New York Times bestselling author 2 times over. And I sat on the board of her nonprofit. And she told me that when she would go and do speaking engagements based on her book, oftentimes women of color, Black women in particular, would come up and ask her for advice. And she said that she didn't feel comfortable necessarily giving them the advice because she didn't know their lived experience. That wasn't her experience.
Mm,
She's a white woman. And
mm,
she said, Tana, based on your history, based on
mm,
your background in
mm,
HR, she said,
mm.
I feel like you should write this book. And I was like, what? No way. And she said, I think it'd be good for them to be able to hear directly from a Black woman. And she said, I just haven't seen something like that out yet. And I said, okay, I can step to that challenge. And so what I did was I kind of shared what my experience was in corporate America. Again, working within a structure that wasn't built for me to succeed. What were some of the challenges? What were some of the unfairness, inequities, discrimination, racism, all those things that I experienced? And then how did I learn how to navigate through them to get to the point where I became a chief human resource officer, which at that day and time, a Black woman, there weren't that many. And so I shared it through the lens of understanding what it means to stop being the best kept secret, because sometimes we are our best kept secret. And it's a coaching program that I developed years ago. And I have components in it called Own Your Power, Your Truth, Your Healing, and Your Worth. And so for each story, I kind of go through those steps of what it took for me to own my power, my truth, my healing, my worth, and my destiny in each of those stories.
Wow.
But then I realized my story wasn't good enough. I wanted to bring in other people's perspective. And so I interviewed other powerful Black women from corporate to entrepreneurs and had them share their stories very openly and candidly. And again, identifying what they use to put in their, identify their own power, their truth, their healing, their worth, and their destiny. Wow. And then I thought, this is great, but I want an international perspective, because
like
what are Black women in other countries experiencing, right? And so I was able to get connected to Swati Mandela. She's the granddaughter of Winnie and Nelson Mandela. And she shared her story very openly and candidly. And there were some great similarities across all of those stories. And I ended it with some strategies, right? So that's why I call it a guide, because I give some strategies in terms of, okay, if you're encountering this, you should do this. Here are some things that worked here that you saw in these stories. And then I also gave some terminology, like what does it mean to code switch? What is a microaggression? How do you deal with it? Those types of things. So it was good. It was a great experience, great hearing those stories. Many of them touched my heart. And it also allowed me to realize that oftentimes we think we're the only one that's going through a certain situation. And it's because we don't. In most cases, we're the only one, or one of few. So we don't talk to a lot of people in the workplace about what we're experiencing. And if we are having issues, we'll do it after work with friends or family. And then we go back in and put that mask on, right? And so this book allowed all of us to take our mask off and say, oh my God, yes, that happened to me too.
Wow, that sounds fabulous.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get that. That's gonna be some reading for me as well. Let's see, Dr. Stacy. She said she can't wait to read your book. Hopefully you'll win it today. Who knows? Put your name in the chat. Her name is in the chat. Awesome. I can't wait to read it either. It sounds great. What made you, how long did that process take?
It took over a year.
Yeah, because you went international, because then I'm like, wow, that had to slow it down.
Oh yeah. Time Swati down was a lot.
Yeah.
And it was kind of as we were coming just before the pandemic is around the time when I finished it. So I did a lot of interviews in person. I did some virtually, and the writing and the rewriting took a lot. Having an editor to go through it, and then ultimately finding a publisher. That whole process took over a year.
Congratulations. It's done. It's out. It sounds wonderful. Can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
You are such an inspiration. Thank you for coming on and inspiring us all.
Appreciate it.
I'm pretty sure I am not going to go back to law school, but I'm thinking about it. You make me think about it.
Come on over. It's fine. Come on over.
Yeah, right. If you want Dr. Tana's book, put the number 1 in the chat, and we'll enter your name into the raffle. So thank you so much for joining us. Before we let you go, and before we put your raffle out there, is there any last thoughts you want to leave us with today? I feel like I got to get you before you go to law school, because I know once that happens, woo!
Yeah, you catch me pretty early on, so you're lucky.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I think thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was, good getting to know you before the session, and then coming in and spending time with you and your audience. So thanks for having me. And in terms of, women in the workplace, just again, one of the key components of Stop Being the Best Kept Secret is to learn how to own your power. And that's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. So understanding how to lean into that, find yourself a good mentor, a good sponsor if you don't have one already. That's important, especially if you're in corporate. And even as an entrepreneur, I have mentors and people that say good things about me when I'm not in the room, and open doors for me that I probably would never know were there. So it just continues. And then being very intentional about your brand, how you show up, how do you want people to see you, to receive you, being consistent in that way, so that when they know what they're getting when they do tap on your shoulder. So those are things. And then, of course, stay in touch with me on LinkedIn at Dr. Tana M. Session. My website, tanamsession.com. I also have a website for my coaching program, stopbeingthebestkeptsecret.com. And then, of course, my nonprofit, if anyone wants to donate to help us continue to take care of these little ones in foster care, is from fostercaretofabulousfoundation.com.
Oh, where are the kids at that you're supporting?
They're all over, but we focus primarily in New York, Atlanta, and LA. So pretty much the places where I've lived. Those are the places.
Awesome. Awesome. You're doing good in the world. So it's my pleasure to support you and have you on and give you amplify your voice and elevate you. You deserve all of that.
Thank you.
So I wish you all the best. I wish you all the best in the future. And I hope we stay connected, because I think you are awesome, awesome, awesome. I like to have awesome people in my circle.
Same here, Gayle. Same to you. As I said, I don't say yes to everyone. So there was something special about you, and you're awesome and phenomenal. And I'm, again, honored to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. I know you've got to get to things. So we're going to raffle off your book, and I give you permission to go back and study your law books.
Thank you.
I know you're going to crush that.
I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Up next, the raffle. And our raffle music. Hello, welcome back, everybody. I have some winners to announce. Dr. Stacy Walton put her #1 in first, and she is the winner of Dr. Tana's book. And so we'll be getting Dr. Tana to mail that, her assistant to mail that to you straight away. Dr. Stacy, please put your address. I am me with your address so that we can get that to you. Thank you. And then for my book, we have Carol Harmon, who is always supporting me. Thank you so much for being here again today, Carol. If you already have a copy of my book, please feel free to give the second one away. That's coming your way. All right. Thank you so much. I think that was wonderful to hear from Dr. Tana. She's such an inspiration. She talked a lot about brand and how you show up. So let's go next to our Brand Your Brilliance testimonials. So we had a live event here at Seasons 52. It was so much fun. And I have a few testimonials to share with you from people who joined us.
And I'll rise up, rise like the day.
Think about your image and your skills and how can I best bring them together to live my purpose. And she helped me to do that.
So if we want to excel in our careers as well as our personal life, it's going to be really, really important to position ourselves in a way that's strategic, intentional, and authentic. So those are things that I really learned in this, and I'm super, super excited that I invested in this amazing opportunity.
She has so much information, and I can't wait to meet again and pick her brain and hopefully get enrolled in her coaching classes, because I think I will benefit from that a lot, and I think a lot of people will too. Because we don't know the art of negotiation, because we don't value ourselves and then what we bring to the table in the corporate world, and then we need to make that a priority.
And then I also learned a lot about what negotiation is, and that it can be more of a conversation and less conflict, and that the goal is to find the shared interests and make them shared goals. We had so much fun, and we learned so much. We have so many resources to take back home and to our work.
We're having big fun. Hey, I guess you can see that the ladies were having big fun. There was a lot of noise in the background, but I hope you got the gist of it. We will do it again. We had so much fun. We'll do it again. This time it'll be virtual. And so I hope you will join me for Brand Your Brilliance and Negotiate. It is a free, did I say free? Virtual 2.5-hour, 2-day event. It's an intensive where we're going to just go deep, a little bit deeper, to learn all about how we show up at work. You heard Dr. Tana talk about branding and showing up consistently, dressing 2 levels above. All that's important, right? But we'll also learn about how to articulate, enunciate, and really get clear on the value you're delivering to the organization, and to get comfortable with negotiations, right? And begin to think of, reframe that as a conversation. So sign up today. Are you getting your worth at work? Are you struggling with pay equity? Do you have friends across the country? Hey, it's virtual. Invite them all, and let's do this together. Let's do a little good in the world today. I did this in honor of, and maybe just because of, Black women's unequal pay day. So let's do it. You can see my quote on the side, that humanity benefits when women are fully supported. You know, women are integral to the foundation and the functioning of families. Families impact communities, which in turn impact cities, which impact counties, which impact countries, which impact the world, right? So we need to support women. This pay inequity is not just a women's issue anymore, because it's foundational to our families and for the better functioning of our world. I hope you will go to brandyourbrilliance.net to join us for this free 2-day intensive. One of the other things I wanted to say was that this inequity, the reason why it's not just a women's issue is that, women certainly are foundational to families, but we need our allies. So women, we also have, men have sisters, women have mothers, men have daughters, and they have wives. And so this inequity is touching on many levels. And in the Black community, it's particularly significant because in California, and even across the nation, single Black women, 80% of them are head of household. And so if we think about that, they're the only ones bringing in money to their household, and they are suffering these pay inequities. So it's making a difference in terms of our racial wealth gap, right? And also 80% of Black women are head of household, are breadwinners, not head of household, but we're working and we're breadwinners. So this pay inequity impacts our income levels, right? It's something that we need to address. So I hope you will join us, take one micro step, and sign up today at brandyourbrilliance.net. Okay, enough about that. I do want to tell you that our next LinkedIn Live is November 5th. It's a Saturday at 11:30. So I hope you will join us for the next edition of Impactful Conversations with Gayle Guest-Brown. Thank you for coming out today. It's been a pleasure to be here. I look forward to seeing you again in November.